Good day, dear esteemed students. You're welcome to the second topic in general agriculture, and I hope the first topic was an interesting one. This second topic will be learning so many things. The first one will be learning about agric and the natural environment. Secondly, we will be learning about the adverse effects of degradation of the ecosystem. Then also we'll define land tenure and use systems. And from there, we'll learn the classes of land tenure system. We'll also know the factors causing change in the usage of agri lands. Also, in this second topic, we'll be learning the phases of agricultural development, contribution of agriculture to the GDP of the economy, and the growth generally in agriculture. This second topic promises to be an interesting one, and I know you're going to have a wonderful time. Thank you. You're welcome once again to the second topic in general agriculture, and I still remain Alawode Yetunde, and my email address is yalawode@noun.edu.ng. The first topic we'll be talking about today is agriculture and the natural environment. And by means of introduction, in all agricultural production systems, the multitude of cultural operations which enhance optimum crop yields also impact on the farm environment in particular and the macro ecosystems in general. What this is trying to say is that all the operations involved in planting, in cropping, in farming, okay, there are so many operations that are involved, starting from the clearing of the land to burning to building ridges, making ridges. All these operations have impact on the farm environment and also on the macro ecosystem. These operations have a way of changing the ecosystem. For instance, now in subsistence agriculture, by now you should know what subsistence agriculture means. Farmers adopt uncontrolled burning. Or what these local farmers do when they want to plant is that they gather all the vegetation on the land where they want to plant, they gather it together and they throw fire into it, they burn it excessively and aggressively, not even caring about every other thing that is in their surroundings. Also, in intensive agriculture, which involves the use of technology and machinery, all these machines and technologies also have adverse effects on the natural environment. Also, it is worthy of note that natural environments are fragile, but they are ecologically stable. Sorry, I'll say that again. Natural environments are fragile, but are ecologically stable. However, agricultural activities cause serious environmental problems, and this is because they alter the natural ecosystem and in the process they produce harmful byproducts. Some of the adverse effects of the degradation of ecosystems are listed on this slide, and the first one is loss of biodiversity, and this arises from the reduction of forests and other habitats after farming, as well as reduction in genetic diversity and increased vulnerability of high-yielding varieties to pests, which does necessitate heavy pesticide use. What this is saying is that once when you get a virgin land is a land that has never been cultivated. Everything grows there and grows there naturally. When you get a virgin land and you want to turn it into your own farmland, what you have to do is to first of all clear the land, and in so doing, you are going to lose all the crops, all the natural crops that are on that land, on that piece of land. So in so doing, all the organisms and the animals that also live on that piece of land will be displaced as well. And the pests of that particular crop that you want to plant are the ones that will remain. And when they are pests, you use pesticides to control them. So what you're doing is that you are erasing or reducing the genetic diversity on that land and increasing the varieties pest to pest attack. And in so doing, you now begin to use more pesticides on that particular piece of land. The second point here is increasing contamination of waterways and wetlands by excess nitrogen and phosphorus released to rivers and lakes. Okay, whenever you apply your fertilizer to your crops on the field and rain falls, what you don't know is that all that fertilizer is being washed to the nearest waterway or wetland. Okay, so what you have in those waters are excess nitrogen and phosphorus that are being released to the lakes and to the rivers, and this in turn causes adverse effects on the environment. Fertilizer application also leads to soil salinization. Okay, when too much fertilizer is used on a particular land for a long period of time, that soil becomes acidic. So the fourth point is the detrimental effect of inappropriate and heavy use of pesticides, such as contamination of food and environment and health hazards to the farmer. What this point is trying to say, the more chemicals you use to control pests, the more that particular kind of crop is being contaminated, and also the more contamination that is done to the environment and also to the health of the farmers. Adverse effects also continues, and the fifth point is pesticides also kill the natural enemies of pests. So when you are killing the pest of a crop, what you're also doing is killing the natural enemy of that pest, because some insects feed on other insects. Some insects feed on the insects that you want to control, and they don't even destroy the crop. So when you are using pesticide on the crop, what you're doing is that you are killing the insects you want to control and also killing the natural enemies of such pests. And pest resistance to agrochemical pesticides is currently very appreciative. Okay, when you use um, pesticides over a long period of time, what happens is that that pest now develops or grows a resistance such that you will continue to use the pesticide and it will not even control the pest anymore. And when they build that kind of resistance, you have to use a stronger pesticide to even destroy those pests. And the stronger the pesticide, the more hazardous the chemicals are, and the more adverse effects is done on the ecosystem. Also, large-scale slash and burn techniques of subsistence farming result in nutrition poor soil, nutrient poor soil, especially in tropical forest environments. When farmers gather all the debris on the piece of land and they burn it, what they do is that they are destroying the soil surface, and this is also an adverse effect to the ecosystem. Extraction of biomass in harvest of wood or charcoal diminishes further growth of any vegetation. When you have excess biomass on a piece of land, you won't have any growth of vegetation on that kind of land. And the consolidation of this diverse biomass also into a few species. Also, the tenth point here is advances in agricultural technology require a large energy input, often from fossil. You know, um, this fuel that we are all talking about is as a result of fossils, the composition of all these plant and animal waste. They are the ones that form the fuel under the ground. and the advances in agricultural technology require large energy input. So the more the energy required, the more the fuel that is used, and this has adverse effects on the ecosystem. Now we are going to be talking about land tenure and use systems. And by means of definition, land tenure is defined as the system of land ownership by individuals, family, community, or government agency, either for temporary use or as a permanent property. So when you are talking about land tenure, you are talking about the system of land ownership. Land could be owned by individuals, it could be owned collectively as a family, as a community, or by government agency. And the land is either used temporarily or as a permanent property. The land belonging to the entire community. This form of land tenure is not something that you can personalize, because it belongs to the whole community and is represented by a family, a village, or a clan. And this is a typical practice here in Nigeria. Every member of the community is entitled to a piece of land for agriculture. Like you can see this picture, the whole community comes together to farm on the land, and whatever they get, whatever harvest they get on the land is being sold, and the money is being shared, or the crops are even being divided, being shared amongst each other. That is communal land tenure. The next type we'll be looking at is the inheritance land tenure, and this involves acquisition of land by inheritance from parents or generation to generation. This is also common in Nigeria, where a father buys the land and then he keeps it for his grandchild. You keep passing lands from generation to generation, and like that and like that. This is a method of land acquisition here in Nigeria. Another type is the leasehold system, and just like from the name, this system involves the payment of a certain amount of money for the use of the land over a specified period of time. The rent land tenure, this system also involves payment of a certain amount of money as rent for the use of a land by a farmer over a short period of time. Now, the difference between the rent land tenure and the leasehold system is that this rent involves the use of the land by a farmer for a short period of time, while the leasehold is using the farm or using the land for a longer period of time. Also, the individual land tenure, this involves the ownership of a piece of land by an individual, and you can own it either by freehold or by rent tenancy. And freehold ownership has some advantages, and that is that you have complete freedom, okay, of the land. You are the owner of the land. You can use the land forever for whatever you want to use it for. You can either use it for agricultural purposes or non-agricultural purposes. So that is the advantage of freehold ownership. And you own the land permanently. It's not a lease, it's not after some time. So it's a permanent ownership of the land. And like I said, the freeholder can use the land for any purpose. Also, the freeholder ownership of the land offers great security, okay, like a collateral, something you can fall back to. Maybe if you want to purchase certain things, or you want to borrow some amount of money, you can use the land as security, and it can bring you huge returns, each investment returns. Also, the disadvantages of the freehold ownership is that individuals none who have none or inadequate land can neither rent or buy from a freeholder. okay, as the possibility of land fragmentation. When you use a particular land for a long period of time, what the land does is that it starts to crack open. It is no more fertile, it loses the nutrients, and this is a disadvantage of freehold ownership. There's possibility of land fragmentation, okay, thereby making large-scale agriculture difficult and reducing economic efficiency. Also for the rent tenancy, this land tenure system involves the renting of portions or all the land by an individual landowner to farmers as tenants. Like you can see this piece of land here, it's divided into parts. What is planted here is different from what is planted here. So this is a form of rent tenancy. If somebody owns this whole piece of land and decides to rent it in bits, in pieces, okay, divide the land, give it to somebody, rent this part, rent this part to another person, you know, that is what the rent tenancy is all about. So the tenants pay rent for using the land as well as remit a portion of the yield. So what you're planting, whatever you're planting, maybe it's a 10 or a 20%, is usually given back to the landowner apart from the money. And also you have land tenure by purchase, that is just getting your land, just seeing a piece of land and you see for sale, and you just get the contact and you purchase your land. And the land tenure can be by free gift or by pledge, just like people do. They just have a piece of land and you just feel, well, I just want to pledge this piece of land either for the growth of a church or a mosque. You don't decide to give anybody, so you can acquire land by free gift. So you also have tenancy at the will of government, like in Nigeria, for instance. The federal government reformed the land tenure system by the laws that we call the Land Use Decree, and this was established in March 1978. And the decree removed land from all traditional custodians and placed it in the hands of the state governors and local government authorities. So virtually all the land in Nigeria is owned by government, owned by the state governors or local government authorities. So this Land Use Act or decree was established on March 1978. So for a short class activity now, what I want you to do is to define the term land tenure. And secondly, you mentioned 5 classes of land tenure system in practice in West Africa. State the difference between leasehold tenure and rent land tenure system. And in what main way does agriculture cause serious environmental problems? What are the adverse effects of agriculture? That's what this question is asking. And I want you to enumerate 5 ways through which agriculture causes environmental degradation. I'll just give you 10 seconds to just quickly go over that. Great. So we'll be talking in our next topic about land use. And land use is simply talking of how is land being used. So in Nigeria, for example, you can see the map of Nigeria here. The total land area in the whole of Nigeria is 92.4 million acres. Okay, 92.4 million hectares. Okay, and about 91 million of this is suitable for cultivation. Can't you see that Nigeria is so lucky? We are so blessed. Out of 92.4 million, we have 91 million meters, you know, hectares, sorry, 91 million suitable for cultivation. So approximately half of this cultivation land is effectively under permanent and arable crop production, while the rest is covered by forest woodland. That is why when you travel from one state to another, especially in the south and in the western part of the country, you come across thick forests. So those lands are either cultivated with arable crops or they are covered with woodland, forest woodland. Now, talking about the land use systems in agriculture, you can see from this map here, okay, and you can see from these keynotes here that there are various crops that are being cultivated. You can see cocoa in this brown color, you can see peanuts in this orange color, you can see cotton, white, black, rubber, oil palm, all scattered around the whole of the country. Okay, so most land is used for farming, and the various farming activities include growing food crops, plantation crops, or feed crops. You also have pastoralism being practiced, bush or plant fallow, and forest reserves. So that we've been talking since about the agricultural land, and um, land is also used for non-agricultural purposes. It's not every land that you see that you must plant something. Otherwise, where are we going to work? Where are our buildings going to be? How are we going to live? So not all the land is used for agriculture. We also have non-agricultural land, and this is the use of land for housing, roads, railways, seaports, airports, reservoirs, shops, industries, and warehouses, offices, hospitals, parks, and wildlife resorts. Non-agricultural land involves a small portion of the total land area in Nigeria, in spite of the increasing population and industrial growth. You can see, for example, a rail line is built on this land. So what are the factors causing changes in the usage of agricultural land? The first one is the establishment of forest reserves. Where there is forest, then you cannot plant there or you cannot build there. You can't Anywhere there is forest, it's always very, very difficult to do anything there, because before you do anything you have to clear the forest, and it's usually very tedious. And you also have road and railway construction. Okay, these are factors causing changes in the usage of agricultural land. You know, all these road and railway constructions have to be made, because when you plant your crops and you harvest them on the farm, you have to bring them to the city. So that's why roads have to be constructed and railway lines. And also construction of houses, hospitals, office complexes for human welfare. This is also an important factor that changes the use of agricultural land. Also population growth. When the population is on the increase, you need to increase food production, and you also need to increase consumption and export earnings for national development. So all these factors are the ones that cause the changes in the usage of agriculture. So right now we'll be talking about the phases of agricultural development. So there are three phases. We have the pre-colonial era, we have the colonial era, and we have the post-colonial era. So the first era we'll be talking about is the pre, and from the name pre, that is before the colonial era, and this involves agriculture as the mainstay of the traditional economy during this period. Agriculture is as old as life itself, so you can see the use of animals, the use of local machinery, to plow the land. All these are primitive, okay, that have occurred during the pre-colonial era. Another stage is the colonial era, and this era was between 1861 and 1960. And in this period, the British colonialists paid an adult attention to agricultural development in favor of considerable emphasis on research and extension services. So what this British came to do was that it came to improve agriculture, it came to improve upon agricultural services. So the third phase is the post-colonial era, and this was implemented in 1962 to 1968, and this involves the use of more modern technology, farming techniques, establishment of farm settlements, cooperative plantations, supply of improved farm implements such as the hydraulic hand presses for oil palm. Everything in this era was all, stepped up, no more primitive, was modern. Okay, and that is what we still practice till today. The use of your tractors, the use of more cows, you know, all that is the post-colonial era. Now, what are the agricultural development interventions for improving food production? There were different forms of interventions that were brought in by the government, and the first one is the Operation Feed the Nation, which occurred in 1976. The second one was the River Basin and Rural Development Authority, also in 1976. Third was the Green Revolution Program in 1980, and then the World Bank. So these are all agricultural development interventions for improving, for boosting food production. Also, how did agriculture contribute to the GDP, the gross domestic product of the nation? So in 1960, this was what agriculture contributed to the GDP, that's 60% in 1960. Okay, considering the fact that Nigeria is usually is an agrarian nation. Okay, it contributed to 60%. Now, from 1979 to 1975 to 1979, there was a sharp decline to 25%. So you can see that a lot of work has to be done. Because if we are talking of 60% in 1960 and then in 1979 we are talking of 25%, this is quite poor. And this is attributed, okay, to the phenomenal growth of the mining and manufacturing sectors. So we see that there's a lot of work we as agriculturists have to do. And meanwhile, talking about the growth rate of agriculture from 1972 to 1980, agricultural production stagnated at least 1%, okay, compared to the annual population growth, okay, of 2.5 to 3%. That was from 1972 to 1980. And during this period, export crop production declined because we are majorly doing a lot of production. Okay, so there was no need to import anything. And during this period also, export declined. Okay, while food production increased. So the ultimate result of this situation was that we needed to augment the domestic food supply by bringing in food from abroad. Okay, so you know the growth rate was on the increase, and agricultural production was on the decrease. So what they had to do was that they had to supply food by importation. Okay, and you know when you are importing food, you are spending a lot and a lot of money, which happened in 1970 to 1974 and to 1991. Now, in the second class activity, I want you to indicate the three phases of agricultural production in Nigeria, enumerate the high points of the post-colonial development of agriculture in Nigeria, and which post-colonial agricultural development intervention is most impactful on agricultural growth in Nigeria and why. These are things that are able to deliberate upon and meet me in the discussion area. Hope you enjoyed your lesson. Thank you.